Ladies and gentlemen, big hey, you.
Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome to another episode of Big Hearing News. Kia ora, Chewie. How are you, sir?
Kia ora, Pat. I'm a very tired sausage, and I feel like my brain is made of mashed potato. So it should promise good things for incisive political commentary and analysis of news of the day.
Speaking of a tired sausage, you've kind of brought our two parts together. We'll talk about the Christmas party shortly. See the hat I'm wearing? Look at the hat I'm wearing. Can you see what's on the front of my hat?
There's a hot dog.
On fire. You're a tired sausage.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
And there's a particular thing we need to talk about, which we shall do very, very shortly. You had a Christmas party on Saturday night around at my place. It was good fun, actually. It was a great time had by one and all. First of all, though, want to say a huge thanks to John Johnston, Monkey Wise. I think it's Gambino, but it's written with a 6 and a 1 and a 0 like the cool kids do. I'll go with Gambino, though. Raf, NZ and Trish, who have all become patrons in the last week. Also, huge thanks to Ken Sparks, who's chosen to go up a few levels of his patronage from I think it's from a coffee runner to a patron. So it's from $5 a month to $15 a month. We thank you guys very, very much for doing that, for being a part of what we're doing. Maybe if you are interested in doing that, and as it says on the bottom of the screen, you can head to patreon.com/Big Hearing News. And if you do, you'll get things like this sent to you. As I realise I haven't shared my screen yet.
You're doing a me.
I'm padding so no one notices this
That's very
thing. So this is the Patreon page, and today, Chewie, patrons got early notice of a big sale happening on the stage on the BHN shop at the moment. So there is a bunch of stickers there at the moment. We've been talking about that, and people are excited. We've also been going through and showing patrons what our stickers are and asking patrons advice about pricing. And so you can be a part of it. And this weekend is going to be the last patron meetup for the year. All these things plus more to become a patron with us. And speaking of, if you have a look on the store at the moment, we haven't got new merch up. We're going to do some new merch leading into Christmas and into Waitangi Day. But the reason we don't have it up yet is we really do want to get to the end of all the orders that have come, which I think will be by tomorrow. So maybe by tomorrow night we'll have some new actual T-shirts and hoodies up there for you to check out. But for now, look what's up there, Chewie. There is stickers, nice. Individual stickers like Nikki No Boats there. And Nikki No Boats, you can order Nikki No Boats as a single sticker, as a 5-pack, as a 10-pack. You can do that for the buffer one as well. And then there's a little Chewie sticker and a little us sticker. And then there are the multi-pack stickers as well, where you can have like one of each.
That's the one you want. That's the
multi-pack?
Yeah, you want that one.
Well, we've done a multi-pack with one of each, and we've done a multi-pack with 2 of each.
Nice.
Which is kind of cool. And then we've got the actual picture of the stickers and what they are, each of them. So there you go, Nikki No Boats. They're all there. If you want to get them, they're there. And they are... they're a limited number. Now, a limited number means we can make more of them, but at the minute, we've kind of put up there just as many as we have got. So the first lot will run out pretty quickly, as there has already been a couple of dozen orders for stickers. So bighshop.nz if you want to get your stickers. Yeah, and I think they'll probably always be up. Sometimes we shut the shop down, but probably stickers will be all the way up. And you might be interested to know, Chewie, I'm in a current conversation, not as we speak, because you and me are speaking, but on this day, about coffee mugs and caps as well. So, busy time, everybody. Chewie, shall we talk about our weekend? I've got some images we could show. Shall I show some images about our weekend?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay. Like that one, for example.
That's just how that stuff works. That food. That
Save the food.
That one?
No, that's yours. I feel like it is done.
I wasn't there. And then this, yep. Māori all day says, this is fine. No problem.
Yep.
This is the
It's
barbecue.
definitely fine.
And then Lurch thinks that maybe that led into that one. But it was a fun day. It was a fun couple of days, actually, had by one and all. And a huge thanks to you guys who are patrons, because that's one of the ways that we were able to fly Magenta to Christchurch and then pay for the fuel for Magenta and Emily to drive to Dunedin and then put on the feed for Christmas. So there we all are. And you can tell which me and Chewie are by we're the ones with the beards. So there we go. What do you think? You got anything you want to share about the Christmas party, Chewie? It was pretty cool.
Oh, it's just really nice. Like, we Pat and I do this thing 4 nights a week, and basically never in the same place. So it's actually reasonably unusual that we get together in the meat space. And yeah, just
MEAT?
really nice to have.
Is it MEAT
Yes.
space? Right. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Either one. Flip a coin.
All right.
And yeah, just great to have Magenta and Emily down and just have the gang all together.
Yeah. So lots of fun. And thanks to you guys for being involved. As I said, if you're a patron, you might have seen some things. If you're on Discord, you might have seen some things. And if you're here, you definitely saw some things, which will remain. Remember, what happens at Christmas party stays at Christmas party. Is that right? Is that the saying? Are we supposed to say?
Sure.
Something like that. Hey, tonight, guys, you know that we're not huge fans of polls during the sort of off cycle, but I thought, Chewie, maybe tonight we could have a look at the last TVNZ poll of the year, because there is a particularly interesting trend coming through the polling, and that is the success of Te Pāti Māori and where they're going, and the resistance they've put back towards the treaty principles has obviously, they're not doing it for clout, but has obviously given them a boost. And it's a fascinating look. So we are going to have a look at it for that reason. And also there's some interesting things around like criminal activity and if New Zealanders feel safer. That's a really interesting one, because remember what Mark Mitchell said at the end of this year, that if people don't feel safer, he will resign. New Zealanders don't feel safer, I will resign. So that polling is particularly interesting. Also, something from Friday that obviously we weren't here, Chewie, but Mr. Luxon, our hairless leader, was on Stuff 3 News for a 20-minute sit-down. And I grabbed a couple of clips out of that to have a look at as well. And of course, one of the big stories for tonight, which we'll do at the end because Chewie is a tired Wookiee and he has the ability to leave, and he will, is Rose Wang, the COO of Bluesky, in her first ever New Zealand interview. Someone said, I think on Facebook, you have Chewie, then the COO of Wang. I guess you guys are saying you're big shots now. And I went, yep, sounds about right. That's us.
Been saying that since day one.
Yep. So yeah, it's going to be a fun time, and thanks you guys for being back here again. It's funny when you're not watching the chat and then all you see is a comment that says stripper pole, and I have no idea what that's about, but it makes me smile. I hope that's a good conversation going on with Kathy K and others in there. I'd like to know some more about it. There you go. Is there anything else, Chewie? Oh, there's one other thing I was going to mention, because I've got some very sad teenagers upstairs who just spent the last 3 or 4 hours watching the very last live streamed concert from Taylor Swift as she ended her Eras tour in Vancouver. And so now I've got some forlorn teenagers. I don't know why they're forlorn, because they don't get to watch another Eras tour concert again off someone's iPhone like this for the 19th or 20th time like they've done it. They've done this like, not every night, but they've done like week-long straights where they've watched the concert every single night of someone's TikTok account. It's fascinating to watch. So there you go. How old am I? I'm 1,000,000 years old officially. But I act like a 9-year-old boy, hence the hats. Yeah, so no, there's not too much else going on. I'm just looking around thinking if we've forgotten anything tonight. No, done patrons, done stickers, done merch, done a build-up for today, showed people how you guys tried to burn my house down. I wasn't out on the deck when that happened, so it's got nothing to do with me. I was inside
No,
cooking
you
a turkey.
just dumped a shit ton of lamb chops on there and went, you've got this, Chewie, walked away, fire.
Yeah. Do you know what it was? I think I told you, because I hadn't cleaned the barbecue properly from last season, so it would have been all the fat in the bottom of it from last year when it got dripped down on, went, oh, I remember what fire feels like, and it all decided to explode.
Absolutely.
There you go. All right. Hey, Chewie, why don't you pick? Do you want to do our hairless leader from Friday with Jenna Lynch, or do you want to do the story around the polling tonight?
I don't love that phrasing. So let's start with the polling.
Okay. Now, this polling is going to go into a little bit of that, seats in the House today, all that is bollocks. We're not interested in that kind of stuff, but it is interesting about Te Pāti Māori. And then after this, there's a part 2, which is them talking about how safe New Zealanders feel. Now, that does have some importance based around, like we always say, people, I'm sorry to repeat these things over and over again, that we will judge this government by how they judge the last. That's the standard they insisted of the last, and the standard they set for themselves. Mark Mitchell's standard for himself was, at the end of the year, if New Zealanders don't feel safer, I will resign. That's his standard, and it's completely fair for us to judge him by that standard. That's coming up shortly, but let's have a look at the polls, first of all, off One News.
Welcome to our final poll of 2024 as the coalition rounds out 1 year in government. Here we go. National remains steady on 37%. Labour also steady with 29%. The Greens, though, end a terrible year with a terrible result, down to...
That's interesting, eh? I mean, margin of error is normally 3 point something. Terrible? I mean, obviously you'd rather be 2% points up than down, but is it like doom is flowing? What's the word? The sky is falling, 2% down? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no. I mean, we've spoken at length about the hyperbolic language that news organisations use about polls. And I'm sorry, a drop within the margin of error is not something to, tell me when someone drops 8% in a poll. Sure.
Yeah.
They drop enough to have to leave Parliament if the election was tomorrow. That's exciting. Margin of error stuff, no.
Yeah. All right. In fact, they do ask Chloe about that, and I think Chloe was always, honest as like, what's your margin of error? I think that's what she says. But I mean, being honest as well, you'd rather go up 2% than down 2% in the last poll, but I don't think it's, I don't think it's all stations panic just yet.
2 points to 10, the party's worst showing for 2024. The ACT Party is steady on 8, but look who is right behind Te Pāti Māori, rocketing up 3 points to 7%, its highest result ever. It puts Te Pāti Māori ahead of New Zealand First, which is up 1 point, now on 6%. The Opportunities Party is down 1 point on 2%, and Freedoms New Zealand is steady on 1.
I don't even know who that is. Who is it? Who is that?
That's the Cookers.
I get it, but who is it? I know it's the tinfoil hat wearers, but is that Liz Gunn? Because she's out of that whole thing and had all sorts of statements about.
Oh, mate, if you want to dip into that, the Liz Gunn fiasco, the party's deregistered now, but she's in an internet bun fight with the counterspin guys over who she should have stood aside and not deregistered it, and apparently something like 300,000 people voted for them. Absolutely nonsense. Just brainworms everywhere.
Maybe Tamaki? See freedoms? That's what it's in the ballot saying. It's in the ballot, knows more than we do about this stuff. So
either way, just a collection of brainworms havers.
All right. So brainworms at 1%. That must be RFK Jr.'s party then.
Let's turn now to seats in the House and how many MPs each of the parties get in Parliament. On this side here in blue, National gets 46 seats. Now, solid 2 points is David Seymour.
There we go. Let's just have a look at that. So down 1, no real change. Seymour going up a couple. but again, this is all the whole kind of, if it was election day, which it's not. The interesting trend is watching Te Pāti Māori increase. That's the interesting thing from this and the last several polls on multiple channels.
Also on 6, Winston Peters is down 1 point on 5, and Hanarāwhiti Maipi Clark popping up again on 1%. So a big splash for one party at least to end what's been a big year. A sea of protesters flooding through the streets of Wellington. Now the political party behind the hikoi.
There you go, Wellington boy. We didn't get many overheads on the day.
That's at least 24 people. Have you noticed? Right, that like that was Winston's estimate. What was it? The police were saying that it was 40,000.
No, Ben says according to the police, it's 3 people. Joe, you're wrong.
But remember that number was bandied around in the media heaps.
Yeah.
And then since then, it's firmed up. But we don't see. I haven't seen that in any of the major news outlets of like, oh, actually, we have a firm account now, and it is north of 50, possibly 80.
That's one of my favorites.
It's
that's
just one giant big person.
All right, let's keep going.
That's phenomenal.
I think it's freaking huge. That's the truth. It's freaking huge.
Seeing a wave of support from voters.
I think Te Pāti Māori's been really punching above its weight and have consistently grown.
Te Pāti Māori capitalising on David Seymour's treaty principles debate.
I see him on the news today saying that Rawiri Waititi told him not to come.
I love this comment.
You goddamn right I told you not to come.
David Seymour holding his nerve.
I think attention is good for them, but attention's going to be followed by scrutiny.
Issuing a warning.
This is pretty slimy. He's basically making the accusation that things will come up under scrutiny. Like he's basically saying it's on the cusp of saying dodgy operators, because what he's implying is once scrutiny comes, there's going to be issues. So remember how in the one of the select committees the other day, someone was told, that he was a bit of a dodgy operator, and that was, oh my gosh, he's basically saying that they're dodgy operators. He's saying it in a different way, but he's basically saying that.
Warning of his own.
If I was them with the policies they offer, they're not very sophisticated. I'd be pretty afraid of scrutiny, to be honest.
Not very sophisticated? Who's that dog whistling?
Every accusation is an admission from him. Like, how can he sort of go, oh, it's just showboating and their policies don't hold up, when that's his entire thing? That's what got him where he is. Showboating and shit policy.
Yeah. Well, I think Debbie might have something to say normally.
I'd be pretty afraid of scrutiny, to be honest.
We are a party that's providing aspirational politics, aspirations to be united.
I mean, they've had a lot of publicity over the last few weeks. I'm not sure that we'll see those numbers stay that high.
The Greens trying to make sense of the results.
Oh, Chloe.
We love that Chloe wears on her sleeve. That's very,
like
very
if someone
good.
just said, oh, what's your image to sum up this year? Just that clip on a loop.
Yeah, actually,
That is amazing.
That should become a BHN GIF. We should make that and put it out there, because that's perfect for any time someone's below you. I wonder who's speaking. Any sort of 60-year-old bald white male from the other side who could be speaking when that face happens. All right.
What's your margin of error? We can all read the tea leaves. I think it's just down to those basic vibes, right?
The vibes are the worst they've been for the party all year.
Yeah, I'm the first to say we've had a challenging year.
Despite the big...
I've got to say, though, from the political world, better to have a challenging year now than in the year leading up to the next election. You keep talking about national front loading. That's what they're trying to do. If that's what they're doing, they're getting all their shit out of the way now. So people will hopefully forget it in the year leading up to the election. So if the Greens are going to have a challenging year out of 3, it's good that it's this year, not in 2 years from now. No, I guess I'm saying silver lining cloud, just in case they need one.
Big talk at Labour's annual conference last weekend.
This will be a one-term national government.
Support hasn't shifted.
I think there's a lot of Kiwis nervous about the direction of travel of this government, but not yet at that point where they might think about shifting their vote.
We've got a long way to go. It's certainly been a tough time for New Zealanders, but they can see that the plan is starting to work.
Christopher Luxon's personal popularity had been growing in recent months, but those gains have now all but disappeared.
Well, Kiwis understand the job that I have. I've inherited a hell of a mess. I've put a team together.
Blame Labour. Sorry, every time. It's very good. The thing about this as well, I'm going to show you a clip when we talk about CEO talk. You know, this whole a team I've put together. This is middle management trying to find a solution. You know, just have a listen.
Well, Kiwis understand the job that I have. I've inherited a hell of a mess. I've put a team together to deal with that. They can see it's been difficult.
Winston Peters' popularity's also taken a dip, making David Seymour the only
That's got to be the image of this year. And he's loving that food in there.
coalition leader to get a boost.
Look, obviously, I'm always flattered that people would want me for that job.
Well, you know, okay, can I do a double take on this one? What's wrong with our people? Okay.
I try not to get too, hit up about polls when they go in either direction.
He'd be a terrible Prime Minister. That would be my read on it.
Whatever his critics say, he'll still be Deputy Prime Minister soon enough.
So there you go. There's the polls. I'm not going to watch the little chatty afterwards, because after that chatty bit, they go straight into the bit about crime, which we are going to look at. I mean, like I said, we don't take these polls particularly seriously, meaning, oh my gosh, isn't that a good result? Because it means jack shit until 2 years from now. But we do look at the trends. We do look at the preferred Prime Minister. You know, those things are worth looking at. And the trend at the moment is Te Pāti Māori, gaining, has some growth. Mind you, what Chewie says is not necessarily wrong. You know, they are getting a lot of press at the moment. With a lot of press gets people, it becomes the forefront of their mind, so they can, push that button. I guess Te Pāti Māori's challenge will be to continue that momentum. That'll be their job.
Yeah. And I think if I was David Seymour, apart from walking into the sea and never being seen or heard of ever again, I'd be a little bit wary, because straight into the start of next year we've got Waitangi.
Yep.
So Te Pāti Māori have proved that they can put a campaign together. They have proved that they can activate a lot of passionate people to the cause. And we're going to start the year with something that is almost custom made for that same thing.
Well, and Ratana was before that. Ratana then Waitangi Day.
Are we going to be really blasé about the fact that over the summer break everybody's going to forget what has happened this year? Mm-hmm. I think that's incredibly optimistic. I think to write off Pāti Māori and say that they're not being sophisticated in how they're operating, I think if he believes that, I think he's in for a shock.
Yeah, it's just dog whistling, though, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, like that. I mean, I'm going to say something quite revolting now, but what I'm saying is, this is the dog whistle. I mean, you guys already know. He's talking about those dumb natives. They're not very sophisticated. You know, those dumb brown people. That's the dog whistle. He may not acknowledge that or cop up to that, but calling them unsophisticated is just an absolute trope into that area for people that want to, kind of put the natives off to the side and not have to think about them.
Yeah. The other thing is, and again, this is a reasonably mild criticism of Chewie's comment there. Yes, it was correct. I'd just like to see a little bit more positivity towards another left bloc party of like, this is amazing what they've done, and it'd be interesting to see how they maintain the momentum. It's a different comment, right? But yeah, it's competitive. It's everybody's trying to take votes off each other. I get it. This is just wish fulfillment for me. Yeah,
that's a really interesting point though, Chewie. If Chewie had have gone, isn't it exciting for Te Pāti Māori? You know, they've been at this for a long time. You know, obviously come election time, we are, vying for similar votes in some areas, but, for our little brother out there, our little brother competitor, I mean, you got to say they've been the winner of this year when it comes to popular vote. I mean, that'd be I would say that as the leader, because the thing is, I don't think in general Labour and Te Pāti Māori are going to be necessarily going for the same voter. They might in the Māori seats, but typically Te Pāti Māori
seats, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but Te Pāti Māori is basically cleaning those up now at the moment anyway. So anyway, let's have a look at the police situation, because now again, actually tomorrow these polls are going to be having a look, I think, at the Treaty Principles Bill. So again, we will probably have a look at that, because that polling, asking New Zealand what they think about today, about the Treaty Principles Bill, and if it should or shouldn't be brought into the government, that's again interesting. This one is interesting because they're talking about how New Zealanders feel today based on what Mark Mitchell said when he promised to basically resign if people weren't safer. So let's have a look what they'd say.
Law and order has been a big focus for this government, and the Police Minister, Mark Mitchell, even staked his career on the public feeling safer. So we tested the mood of the public and asked them that very question. For more on that, here's senior political reporter Benedict Collins.
I think, Doc, just to say poo-poo to these polls one more time, I actually don't even know why they do the seats in the House one. That's actually the not interesting part of these polls. This is interesting. The Treaty Principles Bill, that's interesting. You know, they'd have 57 seats. Well, but they're not going to. It's not an election. That's the uninteresting part. I wonder if they get forced into a situation where they have to do them, because every other media organisation does it, so they just have to. Get over yourselves. Poll some interesting stuff.
The police bringing an end to a joyride for a big bunch allegedly breaking the law in Auckland yesterday. This government promised they'd crack down on crime.
Harder on crime is just a political trick. I feel safe.
Crime is rife in this country.
I don't think that there's been a significant drop in crime at all. There's been an increase in police presence in a lot of places.
In our One News variant poll, we asked if people felt safer as a result of the government's law and order policy.
So before we show it, what do we think, Chewie? Are people going to feel safer? Are people going to feel less safe? Are people not going to feel any different? Where would you put your vote?
I don't think there's been any dramatic change.
Yeah, that's what I'd say.
I think they're pointing out the foot patrols. Yep, cool. Police are more visible twice a day when they go to get a coffee at the mall, and it counts as a foot patrol. But I mean, I bring up a case from here in New Zealand. Here in Dunedin.
Yeah,
a kid got mugged for his wallet, shoes, and phone on the steps of the Dunedin police station. He was screaming for help. Nobody came to help him. No one would open the doors because it was outside of hours. The police station.
Sheesh. All right, we'll keep going and see how New Zealand does feel. So I'm with you. There's been no change. That's how I would feel.
Just over a quarter felt more safe. 13% felt less safe. The majority, though, felt the government had made no difference at all.
So if a police minister is going to say, I stake my reputation on it, if New Zealanders don't feel more safe, I will resign. Do you think he's going to go, well, 26% of them do, so people feel, or do you think he'd be talking about the majority feeling more safe? Because I would say this would be a fail. Because what it actually is it's a 13% increase if you go between more safe and less safe. So it's plus 13 for that. And I would say that's not the result that you know, if you were in a commercial setting that this national government keeps likening things to, if it was in a business setting and your result was plus 13 when you were going to say New Zealand will be safer, I think you're out on your ear. What do you think he'll be? Do you think he'll be happy with that?
Oh, I think he'll try and spin it somehow. He'll pull some obscure stat to justify him staying in his job, because that's what they do.
Well, let's find out, shall we?
I think this is an example of why you shouldn't set some performative nonsense as a target to reach by the end of the year, because there's so much that's not in your control.
Yeah.
You know, how many promises? Oh, we'll have this amount of cops by this time. Are we going to do it? Well, nobody thinks we can, but we're going to say that we are anyway. It's just nonsense.
This news article accuses Mark Mitchell of gaslighting. They actually say he's gaslighting, because he is, because exactly what they're talking about, the whole police numbers, is obviously not going to happen, and he says it is still going to happen, and they accuse him of, I mean, like, you talk about maybe your media, the news media needing to be sort of more neutrally focused, but also, you know, you can also call bullshit when it's bullshit. That's all right. We'll keep going.
The police minister vowed to resign if the public didn't feel safer after a year in the job. 69% don't. So, will he step down?
No, I've been very clear about the fact that that we've actually seen some good success this year.
The opposition doesn't see it so favourably.
New Zealanders generally don't feel safer. That could be because there's fewer police officers and now more gang members.
Is 26% a part?
Or it could just be, or it could just be that it's exactly the same, and some people are buying into the bullshit from within the media sometimes with those guys on the street. Oh, it's much more dangerous. Yeah, it's not. Statistically, it's actually safer, even if there are more gang members, quote unquote.
I was just going to say, I think because remember the terms of that poll. Do you feel safer?
Yeah.
You know, not have you seen more police? Have you seen more crime? It's do you feel safer?
Yeah.
And do you know what I think is the biggest driver on that feeling?
It's a politician in the media. Yeah.
What news outlets do you follow?
Yeah.
Like that's been shown to be the case overseas, right? Like the US news, if it leads, it bleeds. Same sort of thing here. Like if you watch the news media, you'd say every town in New Zealand is crawling with gang violence.
Yeah.
You know, every teenager with a hoodie is 5 minutes away from a ram raid.
Unless it's a BHN hoodie, then you're an angel. We already know that.
Yeah, no, they're good. They're proven.
Yeah. But I always use that example about in South Central Los Angeles, the Michael Moore Bowling for Columbine documentary where he's on the corner where Rodney King got beaten up. And if you believe the media, that would be the most dangerous place in the world to be. But it's a leafy, tree-lined street. And he's talking to an academic. And the academic says all violent crime is down. Coverage of violent crime is up 600%, which is exactly what you're saying. That's the stat from in that documentary. Yep. And I'll put on top of the coverage of violent crime, I'll put on top of that as well what the politicians are telling their voters. So it's not, I think that's a part of it as well. And remember, this government, this current government, for the 1 to 2 years before they became government, was convincing the public how dangerous this place was. And so now guess what? The people believe this place is dangerous, and therefore you've been hoisted by your own petard, quite literally, that they are now saying, well, you've been telling us for 2 years this is really dangerous, so I feel like it's more dangerous. So now their objectives to make New Zealanders feel safer is almost impossible, in part based on their own rhetoric. Because kind of that's that sort of part of it.
Yep.
Let's get back to the story.
There's fewer police officers and now more gang members.
Is 26% a pass mark in your eyes?
No.
Well, it's good. I'm pleased that 26% of Kiwis do feel...
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt again. It's not 26%, it's 13%. Because 13% feel less safe and 26% feel safer. So that's actually plus 13, right? Forget the neutrals, it's 13%.
Eyes.
Well, it's good. I'm pleased that 26% of Kiwis do feel safer, but it just indicates, like I keep saying, is we've got a lot more work to do.
Yesterday it was revealed 2 youth offenders, fresh out of the government's boot camp, went on a crime spree with knives and machetes.
I mean, that is awful.
Has the offending at the weekend...
Did you get that, people? It wasn't just they escaped or they ran away. They went on a crime spree with knives and machetes. They went to a location, they armed themselves with knives and machetes and went on a crime spree. These are graduates of this government's way to handle serious youth offenders. At the end of it, the graduates went on a crime spree with machetes and with knives.
Yesterday it was revealed 2 youth offenders, fresh out of the government's boot camp, went on a crime spree with knives and machetes.
I mean, that is awful.
Has the offending at the weekend of the boot camp participants turned the boot camp pilot into a failure?
No, absolutely not. These are some of our toughest, most serious, persistent young offenders.
Is the Minister for Children too close to these offenders? I mean, last week when they absconded, she said, they've just gone through, they've lost a friend, that they're upset. And yet they've gone out, armed themselves and gone out on a crime spree.
Good Lord.
I mean, she seems to be excusing their behaviour.
No, that's not what's happening here.
This poll was taken before police revealed they're not on track to deliver the 500 new cops in 2025 as promised.
I'm confident that it will be in 2026.
No, they haven't said that. They said that the funding takes them through to June 2026. The target has always been very clear that we've aimed for 25th November to deliver those 500 police officers.
The police minister now gaslighting the public on police numbers.
So let's just look at that one piece again, because the new police commissioner says, no, we'll get to 500 in 2026. And then Mark Mitchell says, no, that's not what he said. This is the literal definition of gaslighting. What he said was, so this is, we'll watch it one more time.
In 2025 as promised.
I'm confident that it will be in 2026.
I'm confident it will be 500 additional police officers will be in 2026.
No, they haven't said that. They said that the funding takes them through to June 2026. The target has always been very clear that we have aimed for 25th November to deliver those 500 police officers.
The police minister now gaslighting the public on police numbers. Benedict Collins.
I mean, like, I know there's going to be a whole bunch of, various platform-based conversations going on about how the news media should be neutral. It's like, yeah, but if you're overtly lying, if you're standing there saying this rain that I'm catching here in my hand is dry, then actually the news media needs to go, no, it's wet. No, you're wrong. It's dry. This pool of water in my hands from the rain, that's dry. Yeah, no, sorry, Minister, that's wet. You're wrong. That's also a part of the news media, Chewie.
I mean, that's a hysterical thing to even just fucking try. Of like, no, that's not what he said. Oh, so you're going to say that to the people with the digital recordings? And you're just like that. That should be the next step. Is that the reporter goes, oh well, no, hang on, I'll just look it up on my phone. See, look, you're wrong. Mark Mitchell's terrible. I mean, with these promises of police numbers, who do you believe? A politician or the police commissioner who is operationally more involved with gaining police officers and seeing what he's losing and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Like, I know the guy's new in the job. We don't know much about him. Well, at least I don't much about him. But I trust his numbers and his goals more than I trust Mark Mitchell going, oh, yeah, that thing that he said, no, you heard it wrong. He didn't.
Yeah.
He said that I was right all the time and I'm the best police minister that there's ever been in history.
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's not that he doesn't worry that they've got recording equipment. Maybe he thinks they don't have editing equipment, so he can't put them side to side. Maybe he thinks that. So it's not about the recording. It's about he wasn't aware that they could then get the two comments side by side. Maybe that's what it's about.
That would be the next best thing, would be to split screen it. And just show people like, oh, the Mark Mitchell says that we heard this wrong, and here it is playing in split screen, and then we go back to Mark Mitchell saying that we're wrong again.
Some comments based on the stories we've just shown. What plan is starting to work, Luxon? Losing jobs? Yeah, I'm getting a bit tired of Mr. Luxon going, the public are seeing our plan is working. There's a very short clip that I'm about to show you at the end of this longer clips where Luxon talks about we're all in this together. And I just thought, dude, you have no idea how much like Māori for one, are not in this with you. But what he don't seem to get is they're not in it with you by your choice, not by their choice. They're not in it with you based on you basically not including them in the conversation around things that you think are so important. And it's only 30 seconds and I'll play it at the end of the next things we're going to do. But I got a bit pissy myself, actually, a bit foo-fooey, Chewie, because it's the ultimate disrespect having your boss, your middle manager, your prime minister saying we're all in this together, while they're actively keeping a huge section of society out of the conversation and who are pushing back against them. It's just it is PR spin from a middle manager. Oh no, my product is far better than their product, even if it's not. It is what it is. XL Deer says, will David Seymour show at Waitangi? He will, because they're doing a debate. Bomber's hosting a debate up there. And
I would have said he will because there's cameras. And again, what he wants is ruckus.
He didn't go to Ratana last year. He probably won't go to that next year. There's cameras there. But yep, I think Waitangi, you sort of have to do what you have to do. Citizen Gold. How the hell are police stations ever closed? I think probably, Chewie, what would be fair to say is it's their public the public office part. I mean, there would have been people on site.
I get that though, but it's a police station. The idea of the lobby being closed in a police station, like, I've been assaulted in the CBD and I'm near a police station. I should be able to go straight there. Like, this is one of the things. If you want people to feel safer, that is one of the things. You can always walk into the lobby of a police station.
Yeah.
Is that weird? Would that have helped that kid that I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. If that kid could have run inside, even if you had to press a buzzer on the inside and they came out from all, but if there's cameras and you're inside the building, far safer, aren't you? But yeah, I mean, like, to be honest with you, maybe a little bit of my privilege here. I don't think I have ever needed to go into a police station in the middle of the night. But I mean, I think about growing up in Auckland. Central Auckland's never shut. Obviously, it's never shut. Bigger city.
Well,
I would think I would. Central Auckland.
They shut that CBD station down. They've reopened it now under the reign of Mark Mitchell.
Oh no! You're thinking about You're thinking about downtown. You're thinking about downtown. Central Police Station is up above Aotea, up above Aotea Square, up heading towards Simon Street, heading towards up to K Road. And I would think that all of the regions in the bigger cities, like, because the thing about Auckland is it's basically 5 or 6 cities put together: North Shore, Waitakere, Central, East, South. I think they'd all have ones that are open. But yeah, so are you saying that means you're saying that there is not a single police station in Dunedin that has an open lobby after hours? Because the central one would be the main one.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's uncommon in New Zealand.
Right.
And I see a couple of comments going, well, you'd call the police. Not if you've just been mugged for your cell phone.
Outside the police station.
Outside the police station. Like, this is the thing that seems crazy to me, is like, you shouldn't have the hurdle to climb or to clear of having a phone to get help. Like, it just baffles me. And this is one of the things specifically around the Dunedin bus hub and the safety of it, is like, we have had crime and assaults and a murder, a manslaughter, directly outside the police station.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel right. The police station shouldn't be in the area of high crime. I don't know. Is that just me?
Yeah.
Is that just me? But I mean, not having a lobby open in a city police station reeks of cost cutting and nothing else.
Yeah.
Like, even if it was a junior officer or a civilian worker that could at least go out and go, okay, lock the doors, you're safe now, help is on the way, rather than you pounding on the door of a police station. It's nuts.
Yeah. All right. Anything else in the chat you want to throw out there before we get to Luxo Flakes speaking to Jenna Lynch?
No, let's roll on to Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean. Now, I was going to show more of this, but, what'll happen is it'll take us through to forever. So they talked about military academies. They talked about all sorts of stuff, but I'm going to jump on to a point where they talked about military-style guns because there is, like, some law changes coming up, and all Jenna Lynch is trying to do is get him to commit that he's going to keep those military-style weapons as that is right now. Like, no new people are able to get their hands on it, and he won't do it. He won't commit to it.
It's so easy.
And I'll tell you, he won't commit to it. And then he uses an excuse of why he won't commit to it, that the previous question, which I'm not showing you about police academies, he's happy to break. And I'll talk you through that when it happens.
On guns, will you make a promise? There's some reforms coming up that Nicole McKee is leading. A lot of people have concerns because of her previous life. She was part of a lobby that,
current life,
lobbied.
Previous life? You think these guys aren't still doing that job? She might be doing it voluntary now, but come on, guys.
We
life?
have concerns about the life that she's currently living.
Yeah.
Against changes that the government made in the post-March 15 era. Will you make a promise that when those gun reforms happen, you will not let military-style semi-automatic firearms be more accessible to people than they are today?
I can reassure you, we haven't had the conversations in Cabinet yet because there's, as you know, there's 4 phases to
Okay, so when you start off with, I can reassure you, and then you go to, we haven't had the conversations, then there's no reassurance in that. You're trying to find the answer. I can reassure you that we haven't had the answers. Why do I need reassurance that you haven't had the conversation yet? What are you reassuring me of, Mr. Prime Minister? I can reassure you that we haven't had the conversations. I don't need reassurance about when the conversations are happening. I want reassurance that there's not going to be more of these military-style weapons out on the grounds.
Had the conversations in cabinet yet because there's, as you know, there's 4 phases to the reforms that are taking place. One was around clubs. We've got to work our way through the Arms Act rewrite, which is an old piece of legislation that is really clunky and not clear. And what we want is maximum clarity.
See, it's quite simple, right? It's yes, I give you that assurance, or it's no, I can't give you that assurance. That's how you answer this question.
We want maximum improved and enhanced public safety. So I can reassure you.
Did you get that? Enhanced public safety. Middle manager, there's your new buzzwords. We want enhanced public safety.
My position, starting position with Nicole, has been very clearly we need to see enhanced public safety. So I don't.
But does that include making sure that military-style semi-automatics don't go to any more people than they currently are? So there's pest controllers and collectors at the moment. Will that be extended to anyone else? Will there be more access?
Again, we're in a public consultation process. The public will be consulted. There's targeted consultations been going on as well. I need to let that process run. There'll be a cabinet conversation. But what I can reassure you about is that the position of me and many of our cabinet colleagues is very firm around wanting to see public safety.
Words.
So I just don't.
So I'm going to reassure. He sounds like Trump. I can reassure you that myself and my cabinet members are very keen to have enhanced safety, but just not like this. Now, the reason that this is horseshit is that the conversation before, which we're not going to play, he was talking about military academies, and Jenna Lynch brought together the 2 parts to do with the apology to the survivors of abuse in state care and said, do you give us a guarantee that if youth in the new boot camps got abused, you would shut it down? And you know what he said? He said, yes, I would shut it down. He didn't go through and go, well, there's a public consultation and that was a trial and we need to. He said yes. So this is all bullshit because he can say yes or no if he wants to. He just doesn't want to. He doesn't want to say, I give you that assurance. He wants to say, enhanced public safety. I assure you, you can be confident that we are going to look out for your safety. Are you going to look out for our safety by making sure there are not more of those murder weapons out there? All I can do is assure you that enhanced public safety will be worked out. It's horrific, Chewie. Sir, if you want to add anything?
No, there's so many words. Let's see how many words he's still got to go.
We've got about 90 seconds on this clip.
Can't say that there won't be more.
It's unfair of me to go presuppose a conversation that we haven't
had.
But
it's not unfair of him to say it about boot camps. See, this is the thing. He said he gave that assurance about it. It wasn't unfair then.
Chance to have a conversation out in cabinet. So I appreciate you want the answer, but you're not going to get the answer because I need to follow a process to make sure.
Because we have to check in with our funders first. He says allegedly from a distance. Allegedly.
Or that actually I need to let that run because there's a number of other issues, frankly, around the Arms Act that we need to improve to strengthen public safety. And I get it, semi-automatic as a piece of it, but it's not all of it. And I want to look at that in the round and I want to understand it, but I want to reassure you, we want to make sure at the end of it all is a much stronger public safety.
The gun register.
Much stronger public safety. Much stronger public safety. What about getting rid of those military style, keeping them out? I will assure you it will be safer. How? It's my assurance to you. And now there's a little bit about the gun registry. I was going to take it out, but actually it's more telling because remember we've spoken to
the registry is really important.
And we've spoken to people about this. We've spoken to the police association, but they want it kept in. The police want it kept in.
We want to make sure at the end of it all is a much stronger public safety.
The gun register is something that is part of those reforms. The police really don't want that scrapped. Will you commit to not scrapping the gun
register? All we've committed to is to make sure that it is functioning.
So that's a no. I won't commit to that. It's much easier just to say no, Mr. Prime Minister, rather than all this horse shit.
As a review of the gun registry, not to scrap the gun registry. We've said we'd undertake a review.
So you won't scrap it?
Well, it's appropriate we do a review, and that review needs to run its course to see how we...
He never said it's appropriate to do a review if there was abuse against the kids in the boot camps. He never went, if that happens, it would be appropriate to do a review. He went, yes. Yes, I would scrap it. And then he goes on to say how it's not going to happen, fine. But he said, yes, it would be scrapped.
We can improve it, what's working well, what's not working well, and then we'll come together and have a conversation.
But scrapping it is on the table.
I would just say to you, I don't think that's very likely. We're doing a review of it to make sure that, but let's see and let that work go through. You know, in fairness, that's our commitment in the coalition agreement, and it's a legitimate one because you've seen gun registries all around the world be imposed and put together, and they've been badly run, badly managed. And as you've seen us make
this is our
on
prime
things like,
people.
for example, school lunches, where we actually are able to...
Because, you know, military-style weapons are exactly fucking like school lunches. You can draw a direct parallel between, you know, a military-style weapon getting into the hands of someone and buttered chicken getting into the hands of someone. It's exactly the fucking same.
Us make interventions on things like, for example, school lunches, where we actually are able to feed more kids at lower cost and get a better outcome. We want to make sure that we've got everything set up right to manage that.
How did we
so we'll do a
get
review
here?
of the gun registry.
I feel like I'm having a stroke.
Maybe you are, sir. Does the room smell like burnt toast right now where you are?
I can't smell anything since we did that barbecue. Look, I'm not going to tell Luxon how to do his job, right? Because clearly I'd prefer that he didn't. But there's a way to answer that question. We all know that there is a democratic procedural way that they're going to have to work through this. And all of, look, what I'd say to you, Jenna, is this. I have a personal view that we don't need more semi-automatic weapons more freely available in this country. And that will be the position that I take into the discussion that we will have around the law change. You haven't prejudged anything.
So you know what's interesting?
You've come off like a person with a fucking opinion and a brain in your noggin.
But do you know what's interesting about that, Chewie? There is a consultation period at the moment about the Treaty Principles Bill. He's perfectly comfortable going, we are going to do this as often as he can and as loud as he can. Why is he not bringing the same delicate, walking on eggshells around the tree? I shouldn't say anything. We got to let the process. He's not saying any of that. He's going, nah, it's rooted. We're not going to vote for it. So this is the hypocrisy, and this is evidence that he just doesn't want to talk about it. He's using it as an excuse because the stuff he does want to talk about, Treaty Principles Bill, he is absolutely making it clear that they are putting their thumb on the scale when it comes to that falling over. But when it comes to the gun registry, he won't put his thumb on that scale. You know, when it comes to the boot camps, he will put his thumb on that scale and say if there's any abuse, it will be stopped, the thing. But he won't put his thumb on the scale when it comes to the military-style weapons or the gun registry. Why not? What's the difference, Mr. Luxon?
That's because our prime, I was going to say minister, but maybe nincompoop would be a better one. He can't keep a coherent line of thought. You know, he can't keep all of these things in his head because he's always farming off ideas to other people. Like he's never carrying the can for anything unless it makes him look good. And the fact that he's utterly not across this at all. Like he could say a lot of the things that he said in a better way in this interview. Yeah. Like, say you talk about the gun registry. Yes, I'm aware the police are really keen on the gun registry, and that's a really important tool to make sure that these weapons don't get into the hands of gangs, because we want to be tough on gangs. I miss the tough on gangs. I'm just reminding you how tough on gangs I am.
I'm
right,
the
and we
toughest.
know that guns get to the gangs. So one of our concerns about the registry is there are examples overseas where the registries have been very badly run. And there are examples of here where there's not enough security around the registry. We want to make sure that we do the registry in an absolute gold standard, world-class way where the public is safe and the gun owners are safe and secure as well. Better answer. Why does a former EB Games manager have a better handle on answering a question from a seasoned political reporter than our Prime Minister?
Because, Chewie, you don't have, allegedly, in my humble opinion, honest held belief, a whole bunch of nameless people sitting behind you who, if you did say that, would be a problem for them and you'd hear about it.
I mean, I'm just riffing. Maybe I haven't had decades of being locked in a storage cupboard with Unilever products, just huffing my brains out. Like, like I said at the start of the show that my brains feel like mashed potato,
Yeah.
and I have winged a better answer to both of those questions than our Prime Minister. I'm not a dumb man, but I'm not the smartest man in the world. I shouldn't be able to do that. It's weird. Who is this guy?
Kenny's Dead says it's called Luxplaining. It's quite good. I like Luxplaining. That's quite a nice one.
That's a good one.
Hashtag Luxplaining. We might have another T-shirt there. And Brody says New Brighton station closed permanently to the public as well. So there you go. Look, we're going to keep going because I realise actually this next clip is quite long, but it's about the Treaty Principles Bill. And what we learnt last weekend is that it wasn't a bottom line for ACT. And what we've also learned, and it comes out in this conversation if you haven't heard it, it was the only option put on the table. Like, so this was not even negotiated. This wasn't backwards and forwards. There was one option put on the table, and that is the option we have right now. So either Seymour put this option on the table as a starting point and got it, or National put this option on the table, Luxon put this option on the table, and Seymour went, oh, it's better than we wanted, I'll take it. But this was never even debated. It was one option, and that was it. Have a listen.
I just want to pitch forward to next year. You're going to start the year with a trip up to Ratana, I assume, and then we're going to have submissions.
We'll be starting work a bit earlier than Ratana. Hard-working government.
And
shut up.
We're going to have some submissions on the Treaty Principles Bill, and then you'll go up to Waitangi. So you're going to find yourself again in the middle of the Treaty Principles debate. Looking back to the coalition talks, you were under a lot of pressure to get a deal done in a timely fashion. Do you think if you had...
She's been listening to you, Chewie. Debating, the clock.
More time, you would have come to the same compromise?
No, I mean, this was a major issue for both parties that we felt very strongly about.
Didn't sound like it.
But if this was a major issue for National, explain that. How was this major for National? Because that makes it seem like this was really important to us both. How was this important to National? You know what I'm saying? It sounds like he's saying we find validity in this as well. Because he's not saying it was important to us to make sure it didn't go through. He just said it was important to both parties. I would have liked that to have been expanded on.
Parker as the last issue to deal with because there were such strongly held opinions on both sides of that debate. I think we moved through coalition negotiations.
At least he's saying both sides now, not all fucking sides.
Really well. As I said, I think those negotiations set us up to give us a very stable, coherent government because I made each of the parties sign up to the national agenda and in our own agreements where we had commonality and some differences put into those agreements, but then they cross-signed each other's. But look, it's just the reality of it. You're living in an MMP world and you cannot have a first-past-the-post mentality, right? And that, so you've got to do a compromise.
I thought we were living in a material world. Are we living in a material world? And isn't he our material girl? That's what I always thought.
More time, would we be in this situation?
No, time wouldn't have helped us at the end of the day. Yeah.
Right. And
I think that's probably the first true thing he said, Chewie. No matter how much time he had, he wasn't going to do any better.
Who came up with the compromise? Was it the National Party or the ACT Party? Did you
it's a series of
their
conversations that go on about how...
Well, I understand it was the only option that was put on the table. So was it a National Party idea or an ACT Party
Look,
idea?
I'm not getting into the negotiations. We worked them through. It was an incredibly intense period of time as we were managing a lot to form a three-party coalition government. But that experience is no different from what many leaders and governments go through in Western Europe, as I've talked about before. So, yeah, you're seeing a maturing of MMP. You're seeing parties that have a lot of common interests. In our cases, we've got a massive overlap of commonality. Yes, we have some different...
Like the Treaties Principle Bill? Is that a massive overlap?
Like being pricks and
of commonality?
Property.
Yeah, maybe.
So that is the biggest difference that was between our two parties. No one got what they wanted. Yes, it's a compromise.
Could you have seen...
You keep saying that like it's a good thing. This is the negotiator saying, hey, I'm a great negotiator. We developed a lose-lose strategy. Why do you keep saying that like it's a good thing? It's terrible when a negotiator comes out to a lose-lose.
I thought about this the other day. Do you think he walked out of that Q&A interview and just turned to one of his minders and go, I think that went really well. I have no idea what I said. I kind of blacked out. And now he's like finding out what he's actually said and is just having to like fucking sandbag every answer now.
I've seen ding, ding, ding. There's the MMP lines. There's Mr. Arvids. I've already seen someone mention it in the chat, but it sounds like you're talking about the fever dream. There's a fever dream that went on, and maybe he's not quite sure where reality stops and the fever dream starts.
Down at all. Could you have said no?
Oh,
I'm
it's pretty
just
clear
not
to
gonna
me
do
that
this.
that was a major issue for ACT, and it was a major concession for them.
It's
they
pretty
don't
clear
think
to,
so.
but they don't think that's exactly clear to you. But they're saying it's not the way for them. So I'm not sure how that's clear to you.
Agreeing to that position in the same way it was a concession for us.
And on the Hikoi, I know you said you didn't want to go down there because the organisers. I went down there and walked with the Hikoi, and what I noticed about it were there are a lot of quite young children, like 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, and a lot of them were saying that they were out there just to be Māori. They feel like their identity is under attack. This
is actually quite a good series of questions from Jenna. It's more personable. So basically, she's going to go into a point where it's like, are you worried that this is really hurting Māori? And of course, he's got no answer for that.
Had been able to go down and speak to the Hikoi, what would you say to those kids?
Well, I mean, they've got a government that actually wants young Māori kids to do exceptionally well into the future, and I'm really
because that's what a 6-year-old wants to hear from the Prime Minister.
Genuinely serious about it. You know, we've seen a 4% improvement in Māori getting into school. We've seen a huge amount of effort of young Māori kids coming out of emergency motel accommodation into a proper home.
Do you feel they're hurt though? They're kind of being told that their identity is under
No, we
attack.
value their identity and we value all New Zealanders. But if you want to talk about it,
put a monetary value on it.
Doesn't know the cost of it, though, does he?
They do.
Yep,
we love to see the haka at the All Blacks, and we love the magazine that I tried to copyright the word kia ora. So there's that. There is a value there.
Yeah.
Just not outside of that. Not their language. We don't value it enough to put it on a government department above English. We don't value it that much. So there's a very clear line.
Yeah,
about how
you can
much we
see
value.
the demarcation, Mr.
We
Luxon.
certainly don't value their opinions.
True.
Or their history, or any input that they have into local government. Yeah, so we have some value.
Yeah. All right, keep going.
let's take a step back and have a proper conversation about it. You had a situation under the previous government where frustration and division built up because they failed to take the New Zealand people on the journey of a separate health authority, Three Waters co-governance, Wellington mandated local
But is this
Māori
the right
wards.
way to fix it?
Well, I'm just saying to you,
There's actually Jenna Lynch, credit, even though you've blocked me on Twitter. This is an incredibly good point she makes. Because basically he's saying that Labor totally went one way and didn't take the people with them. And she goes, yeah, but you totally have gone the other way. Do you think that's the way to take people with them? Like, full credit. Great question. Great position to take.
Is the right way to fix it is not to do a very simplistic treaty principles bill that overwrites 184 years of debate, discussion that's made this country great, trying to wrestle with and grapple with the impact of the treaty and the obligations that we have as Crown and Māori to each other. That's made us a better country. But the right way to deal with it is to take each of those issues and take them through. So I appreciate people may not, and not in all of Māoridom would say, getting rid of the Māori Authority, terrible. No, actually, massive bureaucracy, poor results, poor delivery.
Yeah.
We think we can deliver in a better way.
I don't think he realised he's the Prime Minister anymore, because he's still saying like leader of the opposition trying to win the Prime Ministership. That's what it sounds like.
As we have done.
Was seeded by a government failing to take people with them, and then another government comes in and lurches in the opposite direction.
And doesn't take them with
You
them.
saw us in opposition have opposition.
And it's honestly, Jenna Lynch, it's a great question, because Mr. Prime Minister, what you're saying is they went into this direction and they didn't take the voters with them, and now you're going in a direction that's not taking them with you. So how is it better? And of course, he doesn't answer it, can't answer it, because it's a really good point.
In the opposite direction.
Well, I disagree. You saw us
You
in
can't disagree.
opposition have opposition to those policies, articulate our opposition at that point in time, go to an election, which is the ultimate way in which you get a mandate for what you're doing. We were very transparent about our position on Māori Health Authority, around co-governance of Three Waters, around our position around the MACA bill, certainly around our position around local Māori wards. There are principled reasons for why we took those positions. We articulated them in opposition. We went to the election campaign being very clear about those things. and we've gone off and implemented those things. And so, but what I want to reassure people is, a conversation on a treaty principles bill is a distraction, and it's counter to what
Hang on. You just said in the last conversation it wasn't appropriate for you to comment on things where public submissions were happening. Why are you so comfortable now commenting on things when there's public submissions happening? Why are you happy to stick your flag in the ground for this one because you know it looks really bad, but you won't stick your flag in the ground when it comes to gun lobbying? Because when it comes to gun lobbying, you're like, it would be inappropriate for me to comment while public submissions are happening. Right now, you're commenting on the Treaty Principles Bill while public submissions are happening. Do you see the hypocrisy yet, Mr. Luxon? Because we can all see it. Do you see it? That's my question. Should we get to the end of this, Chewie? Is that all right? I think I've got like 20 seconds.
That was your first reminder tonight to do your submission to the bill, people.
trying to do, which is actually make sure we rebuild the economy, because it turns out Māori want higher incomes, they want better houses, they want better education, access to healthcare, all of those good things too.
Final question, crystal ball to December 2025. We're sitting down here having the same...
That's finished. I don't care about the final question. But I do care about this other little question. Chewie, you have a chat now. I'm going to find this other one, this little tiny snippet that's the most, not offensive like it offends me, but like the most unwitting, dim-witted thing that he says about taking everyone along with him when clearly they're not. You can go through it on your...
I'm just going to highlight the point again because it's just so funny of Jenna positing the question that there were kids at the hikoi and what would he say to one of these 6-year-old kids, and he goes off on the most political word salad tangenty answer ever.
And the 6-year-old goes, Daddy, what's the bald man saying? I don't understand the words.
What the hell is going on? Like, you can't let him reframe this question and say things like we value Māori when this whole year has been taken up with systemic attacks on things that Māori have fought for and asked for and earned being taken away wholesale in the space of a year. That's why the hikoi happened. That's why there's been the reaction that it's had. Like, I think if none of this stuff had happened in conjunction with the Treaty's Principle Bill, the hikoi wouldn't have been as big as it was. Yeah. I think it's all of these other little things. I say little, and I use that word not to diminish what is going on, but in comparison to the Treaty Principles Bill, it's all of those things have reinforced this existential fight in Māori to go, if we don't stand up now, we lose it all.
Yeah.
And I don't think he understands that. He sees all of these issues as very compartmentalized, right? And he doesn't see the whole picture. He's not a big picture guy because he is not good at this.
Before we go to this last clip, Kiwi Bird says he's living in an MMP world and he is an MMP boy. There you go. Oh, I got close to it. Gold, it's interesting that since MMP was introduced in 96, no one has used it's an MMP world as an excuse for their own incompetence. Daniel says start a position for him not getting a knighthood. That's an interesting. I wonder how many votes that would have to get to be actually taken seriously by a government. Exceldia says, has Luxon ever spoken to a person, let alone a child, for $5? Thank you for your super. Oh, another one there from Exceldia.
He did that. No, he did that. He did at least once. Lest we forget, KAT cat.
Yeah, true. By laxatives,
never forget.
Have you spilling shit like Luxon? And Peter Symes says Luxon doesn't engage in conversation with people. He declares he would like to say things to them. Thank you for your super chat, Howie V. Late fee. The barbecue was really good and talked about altering narratives in a public discourse. Happy to be here. New. Very good. And very short has just said, don't worry, Chewie. He is sorted, though, and won't be living in New Zealand. Right, let me just play this little clip. It's only 30 seconds. Honestly, of the whole interview, when I saw this, I was just like, the idea that he thinks, we're all in this together. when he very simply is making it very clear that there is a line of demarcation that he is not bringing people on board with. Just have a listen to his delusion.
We're all in this together. We all have a different role to play. Yes, in government, but yes, in community. Yes, in media. Yes, in the business world. Everyone's got a contribution to make, and how we harness that. It doesn't mean we're going to agree, but we can be united on the goal. And I think it's pretty special in New Zealand. You know, I lived a long
even that, as long as we're united on the goal, but we're not even united on the goal, because your goals, especially around Indigenous issues and stuff, are very different from ours. Your goals around the health system are very different from ours. So we're not. And I don't know whether he truly believes this. And it'll be really interesting to ask him if he did, if he really believes we're all in this together. And it's okay if we disagree as long as we've got the same goal. We don't have the same goal. You want to tear it down. We want to build it up. So then how do we move forward, Mr. Luxon?
A lot of time overseas, and there are countries that I can think of where you cannot get people who are of different political persuasions to come and be in the same room together to have a conversation about stuff like this. And I think in New Zealand, as difficult as it often is, we show up, we still have a conversation, we still have the dialogue, even if we agree, and that's pretty special. So we've got to protect that. But yes, we can be more unified, but more importantly, we can realise more great potential in this joint.
So it just feels so Pollyanna and so disrespectful to the amount of shit they've caused amongst Māori, amongst the community, amongst the vulnerable, within, public health, within education, these things that they've just trampled on. And he's like, yep, we're all in this together. I guess I am offended. I'm really offended by that. It's not what he thinks they're doing. Now, he's either delulu, completely and utterly deluded, and thinks that that's what is the case, or he's just lying. They're the only two options here, Chewie.
Yeah. This is a guy that knows that he has problems with relatability to the public, that he's not seen as being someone sympathetic.
Yeah.
We've seen absolutely no examples that he is in the same boat as the rest of us.
Yeah.
He is completely insulated from a lot of the things that concern New Zealanders. He doesn't have to worry about having to prove that he still has a debilitating illness and needs to be on a benefit. He probably should worry about job security, but somehow I don't think he's going to be worried about making the next 4 mortgage payments if he does lose his job.
Yeah.
I think once he's finished doing what he's doing, as a person in the chat earlier mentioned, he's not sticking around. He's out of here. He's on some overseas board for a bank or fucking playing golf in Hawaii, which is the bolt hole that all of these pricks use. So to sit there and smarm your way through we're all in this together should send shivers up people's spines. Like, don't pull that line if you're not even close to it. It is offensive. It does make me angry. It's just this mealy-mouthed, performative word salad. And there's nothing behind it. And this is the problem that this man has and cannot solve, that he is an empty shop front. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, very true, Joey. Just before we head into our pre-recorded interview, Mr. Arvid says, sounds like socialism to me. Everyone has a role. Okay, are you going to head off now, sir? You're gonna go and have nanas?
I am going to go face plant into a pillow. I will say about the interview that we're about to play, it was an absolute pleasure to have Rose on.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear that both me and Pat think that Blue Sky is pretty exciting, and I can say, like, one of the things that Twitter used to be really good for was following fast developing international events.
Yep.
What's happened over in Syria over the last 10 days is probably Blue Sky's first big test of something like that. And the information that was being disseminated out over the weekend about the fall of Assad was top notch. So I've got full confidence.
Yeah. And we want to offer an apology to Straight Away, because I didn't realize until the end of the chat that we were wearing exactly the same hoodie. Chewie apparently did know
it was planned. He told me what to wear. Don't believe his lies.
Wasn't planned. Good night, Chewie. Have fun.
No, nice.
Now, remember, team, this is a pre-recorded interview. If you want to offer a chat along with it, I'm happy to put some up as we have this conversation, pre-recorded conversation from Friday with the COO, one of two women who are running Bluesky, and kind of what Bluesky is all about. Enjoy. We'll see you in 20 minutes. We want to welcome to the show the COO of Bluesky, Rose Wang. Rose, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Pat and Chewie.
Very first question, the only question that really matters in my mind, because that's how much of an egotistical maniac I am. Have you spoken to any other media groups in New Zealand yet?
You know, I don't think so. You guys might be my first.
Hey. So that means we're going to have to speak slowly because our accents are difficult sometimes. We get that, but thanks so much. It's a real. I feel like it's a real coup to get a chance to talk to you. So we appreciate you giving us some time.
I really appreciate it. Love the accent.
Oh, thank you. Flight of the Conchords all over again. We've played your video off your Bluesky feed. We're still thinking about what are we? Like on Twitter you tweet and but on Bluesky you post. What are people who are on but what are people called? We got a name for Blueskyers?
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, we call people users. Probably have better names. You know what? I think we leave it up to the users to decide, just like they decided what they want to call posts. That I won't say. Yeah. You're welcome to say.
Yeah. Well, now Twitter posts are called excretions, so that works quite well for them. Okay. Yeah. So, but we have played your post off your feed. Right word. About 60 seconds what's Bluesky about. Because we've got you here now, do you want to just tell the folks what Bluesky is, what it's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So Bluesky is creating an open social media platform that puts users first and gives people choice. What does it actually look like? I think we're used to being trapped in an algorithm that's controlled by a small group of people. And with Bluesky, that's just no longer the case. Users have built over 50,000 different feeds, including 5 cat feeds, more than 200 feeds about Taylor Swift, wrestling feeds, F1 feeds, and there's other feeds organized either chronologically or based on what your mutuals of your other followers are liking. And so the possibilities are endless. And our goal is, hey, here are these feeds that provide cozier corners to connect with other people with similar interests, because there's no single dominant algorithm that only promotes either the most polarizing post and or the biggest brands. And so you actually get to interact with real people and have fun conversations in a safer environment.
Why are people coming to Bluesky at the moment? Because we're hearing reports of 1 million people a day. What's your active user base now, and why are people coming across?
We have lots of reasons that people have come to Bluesky. So I think that in the Western world, we're suddenly hearing about Bluesky in the last few weeks. But for Bluesky, we've opened to the public since February of this year. And what happened was we got over 1 million Japanese users in February, and actually within the first week. And then sometime between April and August, we saw people come over from Korea, Indonesia, Brazil, all over the world. And so only recently has there been a very mass exodus from X, because we think probably of the elections, because that's essentially when the growth spurt happened. But to say that that is the reason why people left is probably wrong. That was the tipping point, is the way that I say it. But it's really hard for people to leave a home where they have built friends and they've had all of their data on there for a long time. And so to actually make that decision, there was probably many things that led them there.
You must be finding dual accounts. Like I'm using Twitter still and I'm using Bluesky. And part of the reason is we do this. This is what we do. Yeah. And I've got, 6,000 followers on Twitter. And it's actually a good source of getting my content out there. So are you finding most people are kind of dumping and swapping, or still doing a foot in each camp thing at the moment?
Okay, so one of my favorite things that's happened in the last few days is that creators are starting to test, if I post content on Threads, X, and Bluesky, how much engagement am I getting across these platforms? What is the rate at which traffic is sent from these platforms to the link that I'm posting? And what happens when I post a link or don't post a link? What happens when I put Bluesky in the name or not in the name? And these types of experiments have been very fascinating, because I think we've started to reveal that there are definitely dark patterns happening in the algorithm that's controlled by these companies, where The Guardian reported that in their first week on Bluesky with just 300,000 followers, they had more traffic and engagement on their post than they did on X all of 2024 with 10.8 million followers. That's pretty wild, right? And so we probably know something is happening, something's different. Hank Green, another YouTube creator, created a video where he was testing all the different posts across different platforms, and he had posted a link to his comedy to a comedy show he was going to attend, because that's what all content creators want, is you want to build your audience and then start directing them to new and other experiences. And so he posted this link to, you know, his stand-up, and what he saw on Threads is it was like, I think 60 likes compared to most of his other posts where he gets 1,000, you know, hundreds of likes. And then on Bluesky, that same post with that link got over 1,000 likes in an hour. So something is happening with these algorithms that are controlled by Meta and by X, where they have a very different incentive than you do, Pat, than you, Chewie, right? They're trying to sell to advertisers. They're trying to lock you in. Your goal is, hey, I just want to find my people, the people who listen to us, and help direct them to whatever new thing you guys are building, or to a new like cool show that you want them to listen to. And you want to be able to have that control. And so I think that's actually what's really resonating with creators like yourselves is, hey, Bluesky might be a much better home for me, where I'm not tied to an algorithm that's a black box and that is manipulating things in ways I don't understand.
Interesting. Chewie, you were a fairly early adopter on Bluesky, eh? Why don't you throw some of your expertise at this?
Yeah, absolutely. I joined definitely towards the start of the year. I'm not sure if it was as early as February, but someone sent me an invite. And I was very disillusioned with Twitter post Elon jumping on board, and it was just more and more algorithm manipulation and putting content in front of me that was obviously designed to generate a rage reaction, because that's great for engagement, right? If I'm going to hammer away at my keyboard and wade into an argument every time I log in, fantastic engagement.
Yeah.
What I've found on Bluesky since is exactly what you are describing. I am connecting with creators, artists that I enjoy, people that are you know, photography and merchandise and similar interests. And it's like a very organic thing. A friend of a friend has recommended this to you. Seems to be the way that it's growing for us. And to see a creator, a New Zealand creator called Pippa Raccoon, saying, I'm putting the same posts on Facebook, Twitter, Bluesky, I'm getting 6 times the engagement out of Bluesky, and it's authentic. It's generating me sales. It's people sharing things around. It's not getting manipulated, and it's obvious.
Yeah.
So I think that stands out very strongly towards the bigger, more established players. How is that going to be maintained going forward?
That's a great question. And the thing that we keep going back to is the point of Bluesky. It's built for the people, by the people. And so how that is maintained is the same way we've grown today, which is through communities. Why are people on Bluesky? Everyone wants some sort of fancy answer about this feature or this one neat trick. And it's pretty simple. People are on Bluesky because their friends are on Bluesky. We're social, right? That's who we are as people. And so what we hope to do is we've given the toolbox to you guys, to anybody else who wants to go and build whatever experience you want for your community. And Bluesky is the lobby in which to discover that. And so we're actually encouraging more community. I think this idea that community creates echo chambers is wrong. We've learned that going into a public square where somebody is shouting their opposite opinion at you is not going to change your mind, right? That's not how we work. And so what does it look like when it's actually cozier corners where you're hanging out, connecting with people with maybe similar viewpoints? And that's where adjacent viewpoints that they slightly have that's different from you, that's when we start expanding as people. And so that's what we're excited about for Bluesky is we've provided this big world, small world experience. You can go to your feed about F1, to hang out with your friends there. And that's also how we show up to parties in the real life. You don't go to a big party by yourself. That's how it felt like on Twitter or on X. It was really intimidating. But you want to go into it with a group of people. That's what the starter packs on Bluesky are for. Here's a list of followers, people you probably already know. Here's some cozy corners, feeds, that when you onboard to Bluesky, you land directly into that community rather than into a general big feed. That's how we go to parties. That's how we hang out with people offline. And so we want to keep encouraging these community spaces and for you to find other people like yourself. I think the other thing I would say is that for Bluesky, we are not tied to an advertising business model. We can put the end user first. And so all of our business models, all of the things that we're thinking about the future are aligned with user interest rather than advertiser interests. So you can kind of trust that that's just the way that we're incentivized because our infrastructure, our data is open rather than closed and private.
Does that mean that you mentioned cozier corners? I think about more intimate, they talk about low LP FMs, low power FM frequencies, like hyper local radio stations. If you're talking about that cozier corners, does that mean this will never really be a successful place for the mass media to come? People that do want to reach everybody, they're not really in a cozier corner. They want everybody to know what's going on with what they're doing.
It's not, I think there's a false choice between a cozier corner and a town square. Like you have to somehow only choose one or the other. And I think what Bluesky is providing you is actually you get both, and maybe not even both, even every other type of community size in between. And that's what you get with these feeds, where you can pin lots of different feeds and you have a global feed with our Discover feed. That's where a lot of the breaking news is happening. You can go see what's happening there. You can also see what's happening with a certain sports game or like a finale night. That is still a global conversation, but more communal because it's oriented around an event or a special interest. And so that is the type of flexibility these feeds are for. In the US, when we had our Super Bowl, we threw up 2 ephemeral feeds, one that was the Super Bowl feed and one that was Taylor Swift's Super Bowl feed. And that lasted us that night. It was great. And then we didn't need it anymore. And so that's what we provided is here's the building blocks to go build the room that you want to go build. It can last longer. And if you want to keep building it, great. If you want to just knock it down after tonight, that's up to you.
In an election, like a presidential election or a government election, there are a whole bunch of people who typically don't vote for the people in power, but they want to vote out the people in power. So they're not actively voting for the opposition. They're voting out the government. It feels like around the American situation at the moment with what happened with Twitter, that there are a whole bunch of people who are voting out against X by coming to you. So it's almost like a stand against X. How do you keep the momentum to have people voting? When I say voting, I mean signing up for Bluesky rather than this wave at the moment, which feels like it's against X?
No, that's a great question. There's always a question of, are people running away or are they running towards?
Yeah.
And I think there's not only running towards, but staying. That's like another question, right? When they come, are they staying? And so what we're really excited about is when South Korea called martial law 2 days ago, where was the place to follow that reporting live on the ground? Bluesky.
Right.
And what we think is that that's what's missing right now in the world. It's not something that we want to do. I think it's very imperative that there is a place that isn't partisan, that doesn't downrank political content, where we as global citizens can keep up with what's happening on the ground somewhere in the world. And right now, the only global platform that is bipartisan, that doesn't have a political viewpoint, that doesn't downrank links is Bluesky.
It can't stay like that though, can it? I mean, like being a bit of a pessimist, eventually the masses will develop that. Like what's happened with X is the masses have developed a toxic, horrible alt-right situation because that's who's gone there. If Bluesky is somewhat running away from that, somewhat looking for something new, I mean, over 10, 20, 30 years, too far, 5 years, 3 years, it's going to be hard to keep it sort of neutral, isn't it? Won't that be decided again by the users?
I think that this is what is exciting about Bluesky is that we're, again, used to this false dichotomy of either one global platform that you can talk or these smaller communities. What does it look like when there's room and space for all different types of communities to go create the space that's right for them, as long as they are following our terms of service and community guidelines, right? And not only that, I think it's about how we as a company are building incentives for different users that are in between intolerance, hate speech, and misinformation, and people having a bad time. There's a lot of things: rude posts, deep fakes, political content that's speculative. There's no guard against that on every other platform. On Blue Sky, we've given the tools to users. You can go label posts as rude. You can label accounts as rude, right? Users then can subscribe to that labeler, and you're providing a lot more context and also consequences for being rude in ways that aren't happening on other platforms. And so there's so much experimentation that needs to be done. And so for us to come to the conclusion that toxicity or humans always devolve into badness, I think is actually wrong. I actually think there's a lot of goodness in us. It's what we're discovering in Blue Sky. It's like, wait, where were all these people before? They were all there. They were just downranked by the algorithm.
I think that's a really good point. I know I've seen that play out in the last couple of weeks, I guess, as Blue Sky hits that sort of critical mass that it's got people's attention, is that there's been some real right wing, for lack of a better word, characters coming in and testing the waters in Blue Skies, and their accounts lasting a matter of minutes in some cases, or hours, because they behave the same way that they do on Twitter, and people don't like it. So those accounts get blocklisted and reported. And I think the block listing is really important, because you can have that person in the town square spewing hate, and everybody's just like, well, I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm going to go to a different room or building or whatever. I'm not going to be in this space. Yeah. And it deprives them of what they're after, which is that rage engagement.
Totally.
And I think that's what drove me from Twitter. That drove is when they got rid of their safety advisory board, looking after vulnerable groups in that space. Yeah, I think that those people have certainly found a home here on Blue Sky with the tools to protect themselves. So that should definitely be acknowledged.
Thank you, Chewie. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Hey, I want to share something with you as well. We've been doing the hard work for Blue Sky over here, just so you know. We had the leader of the opposition on last night. His name is Christopher Hipkins. So this here is Christopher Hipkins. He was our former, taking it back off you, Chewie. He is our former Prime Minister. He was the last Prime Minister. So like in the New Zealand system, the equivalent of the President. And he is now in opposition. He's the leader of the opposition. And we were talking about how politics around the world, some politicians don't seem as clever to be engaged in independent media and news spaces. And we talked about Blue Sky. And I want to play this for you. And I want to show you that before our show was finished last night, the leader of our opposition had signed up to Blue Sky. Have a look.
I apologize, Chris. I'm a cheeky wee monkey. Not seeing New Zealand Labour there.
So his party wasn't on Blue Sky yet. Not on Blue Sky yet?
No, I'm not on Blue Sky.
It's the fastest growing social media. The fastest growing social media.
Right? It's replaced Twitter. Yeah.
Well, it's got 20 or 30. It's got 25 million users now. Twitter's got 330. So Twitter still dwarfs it. But it's Jack Dorsey. Is that right? His name, Chewie? Jack Dorsey. Darcy.
Yeah, the guy that set up Twitter when he sold it to Elon basically didn't sell him the source code, so just set up Twitter 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a huge exodus to it. And it's growing.
Okay, yeah. Blue Sky. Well, thank you. Something to follow up, or some homework from our discussion tonight.
Me and Chewie can be your first follow.
You know how sometimes it's.
And then this is the end of the show. Just 30 seconds here.
When no one listens to you.
In my life.
Yeah, just gonna.
Can't see any of that. Can you make it bigger?
You can't. Okay. Can I?
It's too small. It's because you've got that stupid vertical screen going on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look. This is the list of people that have. This is people that have followed me tonight on Blue Sky. And yes, Mr. Hipkins
followed you tonight.
is on Blue Sky.
Goodness me.
There you go.
Yeah,
18 followers. He's following 4 people. Me, you, Blue Sky, and the Living Wage Movement, Aotearoa.
That's
There you go.
good. There's one important one to follow in there, and that's the living one. So we just thought we'd show you. We had the leader of our opposition sign up for you last night through our conversation. So we're doing the work for you, Rose, to sell the gospel of Blue Sky. I think it's Chewie, that's what we're doing.
Thank you both.
And talking of engagement in that less than 24-hour period, he's up to about 500 now. So hopefully that is a sign of more to come.
I'll be following him.
Your guys increase over the last several weeks. You've obviously scaled really quickly. I'm sure that comes with issues to do with, all of a sudden there's an influx of other things to do. But some of us who are now using it are really interested in the upcoming features, etc. So for me, one of the things I do use Twitter for a lot is putting video out on. I do pay Elon because if I don't, I can only put 2-minute clips up. And actually, I'm happy to do that. Do you have any idea, like scheduling and videos are the 2 things that I really want to see personally on Blue Sky. Do we have any idea as to when they're going to be coming out?
Yeah, great question. So scheduling, you can already do that with Buffer, which is a tool that lots of creators use. And we're working with a bunch of others like Sprinkler, Dash, Hudson. So that's going to be more and more available over time. And then in terms of just new features, videos, higher resolution images, all of that is coming. We really want to serve independent creators and journalists. And for us, it's just right now, let's keep the app online. And then you'll see us add a lot more features, basically provide these robust experiences for you guys, either through us or through partners.
And of course, as soon as you do that, Rose, then we can tell everyone about it and get them to sign up as well. This is evidence is there for it. Hey, it's been lovely to speak to you today. Thank you so much for giving us some time. Chewie, you got anything else you want to ask Rose before we say sign up?
Yeah. Talking about how fast this is expanding now, what is the vibe in your team? Is it just sort of sitting back and going, oh my God, we've cracked it. This feels amazing. I mean, the vibe must be pretty good at Blue Sky HQ.
Yeah, well, I think that we as adults can feel many things all at once. And so it's a lot of emotions. But I do think that there's an overwhelming excitement and just appreciation for, when you're working on your idea, it really does feel like a baby. Ideas themselves have a life of their own. And for so long, we just didn't know if this was something that resonated with other people. And, do they care about choice? Do they really care about their rights when convenience is so much better? And I think it's really validating and timely that Blue Sky has been building this for the last few years.
Yeah. All right. Hey, look, it's been such a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for jumping in. And look, if you ever need any creators to kind of do some testing of like hosting video and stuff, we're happy down here in New Zealand to be a little test place for you. We could do that. Is there anything else, Rose, you want to tell our audience about Blue Sky or anything in general, just to leave people with what they need to know? Have we missed anything?
You guys covered a lot of it. I think the last thing I just want to say is democracy is built for the people, by the people. You have to be engaged in the building or else it doesn't happen. And it's the same thing with Blue Sky is if we want a more democratic online social world, you have to build with us.
We can hear a dog barking in the background. What kind of dog have you got? It's very important to this podcast.
It's not mine. It must be a neighbor's.
Oh, really?
That would be my dog.
Oh, Chewie. That's Chewie's dog. I thought that was. I apologize about that.
I wish I had.
All right. Well, you can share ours. That's my one. She sits in the studio with me when we're doing stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Rose, thank you so much for joining us. Genuinely, I understand how. Well, I don't understand, but I can guess how incredibly busy you must be right now. So we don't take it for granted that you gave us 20 minutes and wish you all the best. And we'll be watching from this side of the world as to what's happening with Blue Sky with bated breath, especially with those new features.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Rose.
Hey team, back again. I forgot which button to push. I was sitting there actually panicking a little bit. Yes, Rose is the best. I agree with you, Shane. That was a great chat. Excellent and a very smart lady. Thanks, Rose. Yes, Peter. It was a get. It was a get. Indeed, it was a get. So Chewie's obviously off. Well, he's kind of off because Tedious Human that said the vertical screen is stupid, and I agree with you. And a mere 4 minutes ago, Chewie said that Tedious Human's mum is stupid. So he didn't go off and go to sleep, did he? He hung around the chat like a lurker. Ian says, if Blue Sky is like BHN chat, it'll grow and we'll police ourselves. Very true. All right, guys, it's been a blast. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We are back tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another live edition. I understand Bomber's got a very, very big show on tomorrow night. He is going to have a whole bunch of guests and that sort of thing. And so make sure you check out that. Also, just a reminder that Friday week, which will be the 20th of December, we are starting up a brand new podcast. It's based on the American podcast, The Leftist Mafia, when a bunch of leftist contributors get together and have a chat. We're going to look to do that as a monthly kind of a conversation, and a whole bunch of people have said that they're interested in becoming a part of it. And Jordan Rivers, there's not going to be these people here every single month. We do it once a month, maybe once a fortnight if it gets growing. But Paul Barlow and Spiderhoof and Jordan Rivers and me and Chewie and Bomber and others in there as well. Jared Otto of Facebook have all said they want to be a part of it. So the first one's going to be next Friday. So we'll wrap up BHN for the year and the live shows next Thursday. It'll be our last one. And then Friday at 9 o'clock, we'll do the Leftist Collective. And then come 2025, hopefully that'll be a monthly show, which sounds like a bunch of fun. Before we go, LLCJ, which is LL Cool J, a verbiage vote for tonight for Lux-splaining and Luxative. Very good. All right, guys, I guess we'll catch you tomorrow.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have their hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, neither this way or that, and will be analyzed by what Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
Hey, what that actually means as well, team, for next week is we'll probably only have 3 normal shows. And on the Thursday night, the 4th show, we'll see if Emily and Magenta are around, and we'll have a bit of a fun on the last night. It also means if we're going to do our favourite people, like we did last year, maybe we've only got 3 episodes to do that. So feel free to email us, bighairynews@gmail.com, with who your favourite people are this year, favourite people that showed up in the news this year. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, we'll try and get some people in to have a bit of a chat about the year that's been. And happy to take your suggestions on who your favourite people are. All right, guys, all the best. Be well, be safe. See you tomorrow night from 9 o'clock for another edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo!